Ginny and George's best new character showed up at exactly the right time? What if I told you the most important person in Ginny and Georgia wasn't even there from the beginning? What if the series' survival, its heartbeat, depended not on the characters we've watched from season 1, but on a stranger who stepped in just before the darkness became unbearable? A character so subtle, so disarming, that you almost didn't notice the chaos he prevented. But here's the thing, this wasn't just a coincidence, this wasn't random casting, this was a secret plan, to save the show from self-destruction. And the moment he appeared, everything changed. Who is Wolfe? Why did he really show up? And why did he vanish just as mysteriously? This isn't just about a new boyfriend, this is about the secret architecture of storytelling, the forbidden formula behind what makes characters feel real. Stay close. The truth is deeper than you think. By season 3, Ginny and Georgia was falling apart. Literally. The laughs were fewer. The smiles felt forced. Every plotline was drowning in trauma, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, and hidden crimes. Even Georgia, once the fiery heart of the show, was spiraling. Her arrest shattered the illusion of control. Her past resurfaced. Her mask cracked. But it wasn't just Georgia. Everyone was breaking. Max, Abby, Marcus, and Ginny. Ginny was exhausted from her mother's secrets, from her own mental health battle, from trying to hold on to relationships that felt like ticking time bombs. The truth? We were all exhausted. As viewers, we didn't realize it at first, but something was missing. Relief, balance, light. And that's where he enters. Wolfe. No last name, no grand entrance, no wild backstory, just Wolfe. But this wasn't laziness from the writers. No, it was strategy. Wolfe was designed to be the anti-character, the opposite of everyone else. Calm where others were stormy, light where others were drowning. And for Ginny, he was exactly what she needed. After dropping Ape English, a symbol of her pressure and perfection, Ginny chose something different. A college poetry class, not for ambition, but for breath. And there, waiting in the background like a secret coded into her healing, was Wolfe. His role was quiet, gentle, almost forgettable. But that's why it worked. Wolfe wasn't just a love interest, he was an interruption. To the cycle of pain that defined every other relationship Ginny had, he asked for nothing, expected nothing, demanded nothing. And that, right there, that's what made him powerful. Before we reveal the real reason Wolfe had to disappear, you need to hear this. We uncover the hidden truths behind your favorite shows, unfiltered, unsanitized, and unlike anything you've seen on YouTube. If you're watching this right now, you were meant to find it. Subscribe now, because what's coming next, you won't see it anywhere else. Ginny and Georgia wasn't just telling stories, it was walking a tightrope. Too dark, and it alienates the audience. Too light, and it loses its edge. But Wolfe balanced it, and the writers knew it. That's why Wolfe never got too deep, never stirred drama, never became the next Marcus. Because Wolfe was never meant to stay. He was designed to be temporary, just long enough to breathe life back into Ginny and into us. This is forbidden writing, the kind of thing showrunners don't talk about. The idea that some characters aren't meant to arc, they're meant to anchor. Wolfe wasn't a person. He was a pressure valve, a controlled variable in an unstable experiment. And when his purpose was served, he vanished. But here's where it gets darker. Because Wolfe's disappearance, it wasn't just about Ginny's growth. There's something hidden in how Wolfe handled Ginny's pregnancy. And even stranger, why he supported her poem, but not her pain. On page 2, we uncover the coded design behind Wolfe's final scenes, and the secret reason why he could never be Ginny's forever. He wasn't built for love, he was built to protect the audience. Stay tuned. Wolfe appeared when Ginny was falling apart. He brought peace when the show was spiraling. He gave us relief, just long enough to remember how to breathe. But then, without warning, he was gone. Why? Why would the writers create the perfect antidote to the show's emotional chaos, only to erase him before the final act? Was it a mistake, a missed opportunity, or was it something far more calculated? Because here's the truth they won't tell you. Wolfe was never supposed to stay. He was built with a ticking clock, and the moment Ginny began to wake up, the countdown started. You think Wolfe left because things didn't work out? That's just the surface. The real answer is buried deep, in forbidden screenwriting techniques that shape our emotions without us ever knowing. Let's dig it up. Television thrives on tension, and tension requires imbalance. When a show gets too heavy for too long, viewers disengage. When everything is light, they stop caring. Wolfe was engineered with surgical precision to tilt the scale just enough before the darkness became unbearable. He was air. He was sunlight in a collapsing room. He was never meant to be Ginny's next big love. He was a narrative defibrillator, a reset mechanism disguised as a boyfriend. That's why his scenes were short. That's why his past is a blank slate. The writers didn't want you to get too curious. Wolfe isn't a character you're supposed to study. He's a breath you're supposed to feel. Let's talk about the moment Wolfe broke. When Ginny reveals her pregnancy, Wolfe freezes. Not cruelly, not violently, just predictably. And that's the key. You see, Wolfe's entire presence was meant to make you feel safe, but the writers had one final job for him: to fail. To remind Ginny, and us, that peace was temporary, that easy relationships don't solve complex lives. So Wolfe's reaction to the pregnancy, it was designed to snap the illusion. It wasn't about whether Wolfe could handle it, it was about pulling Ginny and the audience back into the spiral. Because Wolfe wasn't built for conflict. He wasn't equipped to evolve, he was built to leave. But here's the moment most people missed. After everything falls apart, Ginny reads her poem at the assembly, and guess who shows up? Wolfe. Not to rekindle things, not to beg for more, but to witness, to close his loop. That scene wasn't just about poetry, it was a ritual, a soft handoff from fantasy back to reality. Because Wolfe never tried to fix Ginny, he just sat beside her long enough for her to remember who she was. And when she stood on that stage, his job was done. The writers didn't need to kill him, didn't need a dramatic goodbye. Because Wolfe was never about plot, he was about emotion. And his quiet exit, that's the most forbidden screenwriting technique of all, vanishing with peace. Wolfe fits a rare category in modern storytelling. He's what screenwriters whisper about behind closed doors. They call it the ghost protector. A character who arrives just in time to save the hero from collapse, carries no emotional baggage, offers safety, but is never meant to stay. Think about it. They show up after the hero breaks. They offer comfort, not correction. They disappear when the hero is strong enough to face reality again. Wolfe fits every one of these markers. He wasn't a teenage fling, he was narrative medicine. But here's what's chilling. Most viewers didn't even notice, because the best ghost protectors never let you see what they really are. They hide in plain sight. Yes, Wolfe was exactly what Ginny needed, but that's why they couldn't last. Wolfe represented escape from George's chaos, from Marcus's intensity, from expectations, trauma, weight, but no story can end in escape. It must end in confrontation. And the writers knew Ginny's arc demanded it. To grow, she had to face her roots, face her mother, face Marcus, face herself. And Wolfe was a detour, a safe place to rest, but not a place to stay. Let's break the fourth wall completely. In the deepest rooms of TV development meetings, there's a file type labeled Narrative Easing Agents. They're characters created not for drama, but for healing. They absorb tension from the main cast, they neutralize despair, and most importantly, they disappear before they change the DNA of the story. Wolfe is a textbook example. Enter, late in the season, offer emotional clarity. Never become essential, leave quietly. Now here's the twist. You don't feel their impact until they're gone. And that's the secret. That's the forbidden formula. But there's one thing we haven't talked about. Marcus. Why didn't he fight for Ginny harder? Why was Wolfe's presence so accepted? And is it possible that Wolfe wasn't just a protector for Ginny, but for Marcus too? On the final page, we'll uncover the deepest layer, the shadow theory about Wolfe that rewrites everything we thought we knew. Wolfe wasn't just a temporary boyfriend, he was the ghost of who Marcus couldn't be. Wolfe was peace, Wolfe was breath, Wolfe was balance, in a story drowning in trauma. But the more we pull back the curtain, the more one thing becomes impossible to ignore. He was too perfect, too timely, too unbothered by George's criminal past, too emotionally available for someone with no backstory. And most suspicious of all, the way everyone else in Ginny's life reacted to him, or didn't. What if Wolfe wasn't just a character? What if he wasn't even real, in the way we think? Because here's the truth no one wants to admit. Wolfe may have never been about Ginny. He might have been about Marcus. Let's talk about Marcus. By season 3, Marcus was a wreck, spiraling, depressed, disconnected from Ginny and from himself. He loved her, but couldn't hold her. And in the middle of that storm, Wolfe arrives, not as competition, but as a reflection. Look closely. Wolfe is emotionally present. Marcus shuts down. Wolfe listens. Marcus escapes. Wolfe shows up for Ginny's poem. Marcus fades away. Wolfe offers peace. Marcus radiates chaos. They are opposites, but connected. And here's where the forbidden theory begins. What if Wolfe was designed to show us the version of Marcus that never happened? A ghost of potential. The boy Marcus couldn't become because his demons were too strong. Wolfe isn't just a character. He's Marcus's missing self. This concept is rare and dangerous for writers to admit. It's called the ghost reflection. It's when a new character is introduced, not to expand the story, but to mirror the emotional arc another character failed to complete. It happens when a show doesn't want to rewrite an existing role, but still needs the emotional resolution that role should have provided. Instead of forcing Marcus to grow unnaturally, the writers brought Wolfe in to show us what healing might look like, not as a replacement, but as a reflection. And it worked. Too well. Because now, you can't unsee it. Rewatch the season, not from Ginny's eyes, but from Marcus's. You'll see it. The timing of Wolfe's entrance just after Marcus collapses emotionally, the complete lack of conflict between the two, the way Wolfe quietly steps in without disrupting the core story, and Wolfe's gentle exit, it makes room for Marcus to return, to try again. This is what makes Wolfe so haunting. He didn't just give Ginny peace, he gave Marcus time to fall apart, without losing Ginny forever. Wolfe was the placeholder for the man Marcus wasn't ready to be, and when the moment came for Marcus to grow, Wolfe disappeared, there's no scene of Wolfe and Marcus talking. But there doesn't need to be. Because everything was said in the silence. The way Marcus watches Ginny walk away, the way Wolfe watches her step up and speak. There's a passing of emotional weight there, a baton handoff. It's not about rivalry, it's about healing, by proxy. Ginny needed a soft place to land. Marcus needed to disappear long enough to remember what she meant. And Wolfe was the bridge. But bridges aren't meant to last forever. They're built to be crossed and left behind. Here's the most mind-bending theory. Wolfe feels unreal. He floats through scenes like a ghost. He never has his own storylines. He reacts, but never acts. Even his name, Wolfe, feels symbolic, wild, gentle, mysterious, protective. What if Wolfe isn't just a ghost reflection? What if he's a literal narrative projection? A symbolic construct, an emotional hallucination, the embodiment of Ginny's hope and Marcus's guilt. That's why no one else deeply engages with him. That's why he fits into no other plotline. Because Wolfe, in this theory, is not a full person. He's a psychological placeholder, a phantom written into reality, until the real connection, Marcus and Ginny, is ready to return. This is the final truth. Wolfe was never the point. He was the path. To healing, to understanding, to growth. He was soft when the show got sharp. He was kind when everyone else fractured. He reminded Ginny what gentleness feels like. He reminded Marcus what it looks like. And he reminded us, the audience, why we cared in the first place. When we look at Ginny and Georgia now, it's impossible to unsee Wolfe's impact. He showed up late. He stayed briefly, he said little, but he changed everything. He didn't need a dramatic ending, because his existence was the drama. Wolfe wasn't Ginny's forever. He wasn't Marcus's enemy. He wasn't even a full character. He was the whisper between episodes. The breath before the storm. The secret you weren't meant to notice. But now that you have, nothing in the show looks the same again. So next time someone tells you Wolfe was a forgettable side character, tell them this. He wasn't forgettable. He was invisible by design. He wasn't there to be remembered. He was there to protect what mattered most. Ginny's growth, Marcus's redemption, and your connection to the story. Some characters break the silence. Wolfe was the silence, and sometimes silence saves everything.